Well, welcome to the newsletter this week. This is the week of April 3 through 8. So still the budget is the main topic. The House has sent their form of the operating budget over to the Senate side, so it's in Senate Finance right now. The House has proposed increased spending, and they intend to pay for it through an income tax and through significant appropriation from the Permanent Fund Earnings Reserve, about $4 billion. So the Senate will be looking carefully at that budget. So that'll be in Senate Finance. We'll send you links for that as those hearings roll out. In education, another big topic, today you might have seen, today being April 3rd, you may have seen some reports about some innovations that the Senate is proposing in education, increasing the opportunity for virtual education, which means increased funding for broadband. That funding is available through the federal government, and so that would really help rural school districts particularly to ramp up their education programs in areas where there may not be a lot of highly qualified teachers in advanced subjects or even basic subjects. So broadband is a huge issue. The main idea on the Senate side is to take more of the funding that we give to education and make sure it's being driven down into the classroom so that teachers have the tools they need and students have the tools they need. You know, one of the things you've probably heard me talk a lot about is reading proficiency. We are dead last, close to the last, I think we're second to the bottom, frankly, in third grade reading proficiency. In fact, today we had a bill before the Senate Education Committee that forms a task force to look at the ability of our kids to be able to read. And one of the pieces of information we were given was data from 2015. And that year, how kids were performing in terms of reading. Fourth graders, only 40% of fourth graders statewide could meet the reading proficiency standards. That's amazing, pretty sad. But when you look that same year at 10th graders, only 29% of 10th graders were reading proficiently at grade level. We have a problem. You probably are aware as you think about it, if you can't read, how would you have a job? How would you be able to learn things? So we're looking at establishing a reading task force. Of course, that's an idea, but more importantly, how do we help teachers in teaching our kids how to read? One of the things we heard from the Department of Education and some of the superintendents is that it's a special skill set to teach reading. And not all the schools have teachers that have had that kind of education that they then can use to equip their students to read. So that's a big deal to the Senate. We know that reading is foundational. Last of all, you see up here, criminal justice reforms. So today, the Senate had on the floor one piece of criminal justice reform. So the bill that we passed today, and it passed unanimously, by the way, increases or solidifies the restitution that would be owed by the person that has committed the crime. It increases fines, increases the penalty for Class A misdemeanors, and also for drug possession. So this is kind of a technical cleanup bill. The second criminal justice reform bill is going to get much more into the penalties and some of the things that folks have been sharing with me, the concerns they've had about what was perceived as a decrease in criminal justice penalties. So more to follow on that. That's about it for today. There's certainly much more on other subjects in the newsletter. Thanks for listening.